We'll be live soon. Okay, I think we're live. Yes, we're live.
We're live. Okay, beautiful. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the. I can out. We are about to commence our reading for today. I'd like to apologize to who are joining for the very first time. Behind schedule, it's been really a very hectic and busy. Usually on time 9 for 9, 9 minutes uh, Gulf time, and 6 p.m. West African time. In the boardroom, we have a community of an expert joining us from all over the world, by UK, Gali, uh, Abuja, and I see also from Lagos. Yes, David from Lagos. Have you all in the boardroom? Today, we continue the read for the mind of the reader. This book is tailored towards leadership. So I think, reflect, actually have been reading book tailoring to self-developed leadership that we just successfully completed the rule of mastery. And proud that we also had the book, This Everything, right? Perfectly. Yeah. So we actually have been looking at a different wavelength and dimension. We moved a lot from strategy, which was our major anchor for last year, and we're looking inward to being able to lead the people, but ourselves. And this is very important to flashback. We are currently at chapter 6 of this book. It's been a wonderful time together in the boardroom, dissecting by these two leadership experts, Rasmus Hougaard and also Jacqueline Carter. They've written so many books, as we've seen, but this particular one is tailored towards the MSc leadership, which is about mindset, mindfulness, is about selflessness, and also about compassion. And for the first phase of the book, we looked inward, we looked at ourselves, how to lead yourself first. For the second part, which is where we are now, we want to understand how to lead people. And what is very important? Something that caught my attention when I opened the book today, and I like to read it. It says, catering to the intrinsic motivation of your people is what unleashes the greatest performance. Today, we talk about high performing individuals, high performing organizations. But I think we now have the key to unlock the potential of our people. And I read further. It says, if you help them be happier at work, they will have more energy. If you help them find meaning, they will have more drive. If you help them feel connected, they will have more commitment. And if you allow them to contribute in meaningful ways, they will feel appreciated. When you manage to lead for these foundational human drivers, your people will be fulfilled, collaborative, and productive. And it's good to rest my case or make an assertion that when you work with teams and your teams are very unproductive, you really have to reflect inward and look at yourself as a leader. Because if this is true, then it means your leadership skills should be tested. And on that note, I'd like to bring up our presenter for the night. Lady Bosoye Ogunkanmi from Dubai is going to be leading us on chapter 6, Understand Your People from the mind of the reader. Over to you, my lady.
Okay, good evening, everyone. And thank you, business readers, for this opportunity again. My name is Bosoye Ogunkanmi, based in Dubai. I have a bakery called Bosoye Cakes, and I have 3 kids, 3 girls. So I'm here to present on chapter 6 of The Mind of the Leader. So we start with the intro. Okay. It says, understand your people. Okay. It's a good leadership starts by really understanding your people. You must understand what they think, what they feel, and what matters most to them. Knowing your team fosters stronger relationships and enhances productivity, leading to effective leadership and better outcomes. Understanding your people. This is the introduction. This is the general summary of what chapter 6 is about. To be a great leader, you have to care about what really matters to people in your office, anywhere, to your team. It's not just about giving orders or chasing results. Sorry, are you hearing me? Just want to be sure. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, but
Okay.
the volume, please. I
Okay.
don't know. You're not closer to your mic.
I'm using the earphones. Okay, it's fine.
Okay.
So understanding people. This is the introduction of chapter 6. To be a great leader, you have to care about what really matters to people. It's not just about giving orders or chasing results. People do their best when they're happy, when they feel they belong and they know their work matters. When they feel seen, valued, and connected, they bring more energy, passion, and commitment to the workplace. This is where MSc leadership comes in. MSc means mindfulness, selflessness, and compassionate. This for those that are joining us for the first time, like my sister here. So mindfulness means you listen and are fully present. Selflessness means you give others space to grow and succeed. Compassion means you genuinely care about your people. These 3 qualities help create a positive environment where people feel safe, supported, and motivated. It's not just about knowing all this, it's about living it every day. Be an example. Real leadership is about your actions, not just your words. To understand your people, the writer identified 5 key concepts in this chapter, which are unconscious bias, beginner's mind, understanding emotions, dangers of empathy, MSc leadership. So we'll talk about the first concept, which is the unconscious bias. We all have hidden thoughts or beliefs called unconscious bias that affect how we see and treat others, often without realizing it. This can stop us from seeing people's true strength or listening to their ideas. For example, in the book, a senior leader thought one of our team members was always negative. So during a meeting, she cut him off before he finished talking, only to realize later that he had a helpful idea. Her bias almost made her miss a good solution. Unconscious bias doesn't just affect work. It can influence who we listen to, who we trust, or even who gets hired for a job. Our brain tends to put people into categories or into a box based on past experiences, but this can be unfair and limiting. To grow as a leader or friend, we need to pause, question our assumptions, and try to see others with a fresh, open mind, which is called the beginner's mind. That way we can truly understand and value people who they are. We move to the next step, the second concept, which is the beginner's mind. Cultivating openness and curiosity helps overcome rigid thinking and bias. So what this means is that we see people and situations with fresh eyes, not past judgment. It helps leaders stay open, ask questions, and truly listen instead of assuming. Being curious and mindful helps us connect better and avoid unfair bias. For example, I'm going to talk about maybe cryptocurrency. Imagine someone comes excitedly to talk to us about investing in cryptocurrency, even though we have our opinions or our doubts about it. We already say, oh, I know about it. Oh, it's a scam. Oh, it goes up, it goes down, it takes your money, you know. I think in that moment, just put aside what you know and just apply the beginner's mind, which means setting aside your assumptions and approaching the conversation with curiosity instead of judgment. That way, we are open to new ideas, and that's it. So to cultivate a beginner's mind, let's go of preconceptions about how things work. Let's eliminate expectations about what will happen. Fill yourself with curiosity to understand things more deeply. Open yourself up to new opportunities. Ask simple questions. The third concept talks about the emotional awareness. People are driven by emotions more than logic. Leaders must connect with emotions to lead. Emotions guide us on how we act, often more than we realize. Good leaders understand their own feelings and those of others. When people feel heard and emotionally connected, they work better. Emotions are powerful, contagious, and affect everyone, especially in teams. And then we move on to the next, the fourth concept, which is the limit of empathy, the dangers of empathy. Empathy is important, but can sometimes cloud judgment or lead to emotional burnout. Empathy helps us connect, but too much can lead to poor decisions, bias, and burnout. It's hard to care deeply for many people at once, and strong feelings don't always lead to action. Leaders need empathy, but must balance it with clear thinking and wise judgment. And to be able to use your to be able to use the skills of empathy, we have to use the MSc leadership. This is where this MSc comes in, to be able to have empathy and judge your team effectively. Emotions they are good or they are bad. They are just energy. They're just energy. How do I say it? Maybe they say, okay, let me just forget it. So great leaders manage emotions by being mindful, not reacting quickly, and showing compassion instead of just empathy. This helps us to stay calm, connect better, and support others wisely. So for example, in the book, Elena, the HR of the Royal Bank of Canada, she was able to handle an upset employee, not by defending a decision, but by listening with empathy. She gave him space to express his feelings, showed concern without agreeing or arguing, and later encouraged him to reflect on others' perspective. Her emotional understanding helped calm the situation and guide him toward a constructive path going forward. So this is just, she gave room for the employee to vent all his anger. And, of course, she was not saying you are right or you are wrong. She allowed him to say everything he wants. And then after that, they both sat down together to understand the situation going forward. And with this example, this reminded me of my dad as well. When you are angry or you come up with a story, he's not going to say anything in between. He's not going to interrupt. He will listen to you. And after that, he's going to say what he has in mind. He will use Bible verse to back it up. And that's the end of the conversation. Do you understand? So it will make you see, okay, this is how it should be done. Like that. So it's good to listen, be present. That's it. So for this is the summary, the reflection tips. So the first one says, notice your biases and work to overcome one. Be more curious and open-minded. Reflect on how emotions affect others. When you feel a strong emotion, pause and face it. Use empathy wisely and avoid its common pitfalls. So in summary, just that's everything I've said. Just to be more curious and open-minded. Okay, so that's it. We've come to the end of my presentation.
So I tell you want to ring the bell. This is another timely presentation. This is another timely presentation. I think it was Umi who set the bar for timekeeping. Now, Buzz B has raised the bar again. This is how many minutes and we're done. So we're going to have room for robust conversation. So in the boardroom, what we do for those joining us for the very first time, we give flowers to our presenters, we give cards, we give e-cards, diamond, dollar signs, and dollar note if you have the physical dollar note to transfer. Yeah. Please, you can use the chat room and during the course of your comment, you can start first by giving applause to the presenter. Busby, thank you very much for that presentation. I love the slides. I love the slides. I want to take
Thank
those
you.
slides, huh? Anyway, it's a beautiful thing that we're live on YouTube. For those joining us on YouTube, this was a very beautiful and impactful uh, topic that was being taught and anchored by Bosby, as we fondly call her. A lot of things stood out for me. Um, First, because we talked about unconscious bias, we unpacked the topic of unconscious bias in the boardroom when we read the last book. On the chat, please, while we're still talking, please send your flowers. Let me do that now. All right. So another aspect was for this second presentation, you had no glitches, no technical glitch. That was very lovely. Yeah, I
Thank
can't
you.
forget that. No technical glitch, so you saved us time, and time is money. So that's very beautiful. Um, so I think the five pillars that you shared resonated with me because one, I talked about the unconscious bias, which we unpacked in the last book. I think we looked at it a little much more um, in that particular book because two chapters at least was dedicated to unconscious bias. You also talked about emotion and you said something about leaders are expected to understand not just that their emotion, but also the emotion of their people. Interestingly, bad leaders actually understand their emotion, or perhaps I should say they don't understand their own emotions, or they tend to have a narrow minded view of reasons why they should not understand your emotions or why you should not bring your emotions to business. You know, for the longest time, I've always heard women are not expected to be women. You know, this bias that men have in the workplace against women. I don't want to start a fight in the house, but um, when you bring your emotion, all of yourself as a woman, there are a lot of people who have this bias that, oh, women folks are really very um, interestingly full of emotions. And I think you should come with your emotion. It gives you the drive. If people understand, leaders understand how to lead with emotion or have emotional empathy, then they will be able to drive you to success. So those are just the 2 points I want to leverage on for this moment, and then I'll open the room to full discussion. We have David in the house, Oluwatoyin. I don't know if Miriam is going to be able to speak, but I'd like to also welcome Ranti Tejo Show, who is joining us for the very first time. I think you're joining us from Canada.
Just ask your
Yes, I am. Yes, I
Aha, we have
am.
an alignment on the is it y-axis now? There's
Okay.
there's Mr. Oluwatoyin who is also in Canada, and also KOS who's also not present at the moment, but she's also joining us out of Canada. So yeah, always find your chapter, huh? So welcome to the boardroom. This is a boardroom of intellectuals joining us from across the world, and we join in here to be able to analyze books. And those books must be in the repository and they must be in our calendar. They must have been chosen, selected by our leaders for us to read. And like I mentioned in the early course of the discussion, The Mind of the Leader is a book that we're currently discussing. So if you have a comment based off of the presentation that was shared by Buzz B, we want to welcome you to give your comment and also your input and contribution. Ranti, are you going to be able to speak?
So my contribution to what she said, is that what you're asking?
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
okay. So what stayed with me was the part of unconscious bias, where we before somebody comes in, we already made our own understanding of who the person might be. For example, in the book, it said, if they told you there's a new CTO, what do you think? Do you think it's a white man in his 40s or a woman in her 60s? And then my first thought was it would probably be a white man in his 40s. So having to have that beginner's mindset and let people be who they want to be, as opposed to forming the preconceived notion, that's what I've learned from that.
Yeah, very well said, because that was the very first page of this chapter. And yeah, we all have this unconscious bias, and it plays out every time, So it's very important. I call it the baby mind. Try just to keep a you know, blank brain and just let it play out, and see how things unfold. So very well said. Oluwatoyin, over to you.
Oh, thank you, Princess. Yeah, so it was a really you know well done presentation, um, especially based off from the last one, and like you rightly said, there's been lots and lots of improvement, and that's one of the things that we like to do here to give ourselves um, meaningful feedback, or um, basically honest feedback. And I would say Boss B did really well. I enjoyed the presentation all the way from the slides to the messaging and everything else. Yeah. So only one area I would like to make a comment on for more improvement for next time as well. Has to do with do I call it the body language or the okay, so I'll read something out here to help us better. It says a presentation style based on body language involves using physical cues to enhance communication and engagement. It says this includes our posture, our eye contact, gestures, facial expressions, and movements, all of which can convey confidence, enthusiasm, and connection with the audience. So the first line again says a presentation style based on body language involves using physical cues to enhance communication and engagement. So what am I saying here? Sometimes when we present, we present to engage our audience, and it's difficult because you're not, during one of the things that COVID did for folks who work in the corporate environment back then was that it kind of made us, go online, and most people were learning how to communicate online for the first time. You're on the system. Maybe you're wearing half way down, you're wearing your pajamas, and up here you're wearing your suit. And then, you want to compose yourself, you want to keep yourself in certain posture so that people would, think that you're all perfect and all that. And that could be kind of neck wrap, how do I say it? It could be, very stressful sometimes. And also, if you're not used to staying in front of the camera or in front of the system, you may not look at your posture. Sometimes you may not look at your, your positioning in front of the camera and things like that. And all of these things help us, speak with more confidence. And today, truthfully, you have spoken with, even more confidence than the last time. Perfect. So I would say the only thing is, trying to engage the audience. So engaging the audience in the sense that it is, if I'm looking at the camera in such a way as if I'm looking at you, the way you are sat in your room, in your current position. Sorry for using my vulgar, not vulgar now, my my local English language by saying sat. I'm trying to correct myself every time. We use that quite a lot in the UK then, so and it's wrong English. Sitting in your room, I should say. Okay, so so basically the message I'm trying to convey is, when you see Princess presenting, for instance, she tries to engage the audience with her body language. She tries to bring us into her room. She's kind of inviting us into that presence, like we are all in the same virtual room, and we carry that same, aura. We just flow in that same environment. So it's quite important that we do that when we present. And that's the only thing I'll just say for improvement. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
In terms of, the messaging, like I said earlier on, I enjoyed this presentation so much. And, one thing that stands out to me whenever you present is that it looks like you've got your notes written somewhere, and you follow it through so well that, it helps connect the next slide and the next slide. You even do it better than I will do it, and I really enjoy that. And I'm learning that, there's somewhere probably you've written something secretly somewhere, and you are reading from there, and it's helping you also to, connect with the slides, what you're saying on the slides, and you do it so well. So thank you very much for that. Yeah, what stood out for me in the whole presentation was when you talked about, no, not the emotional one now. You talked about, oh, I've talked too much now, so I've forgotten what I was going to say in terms of that. But I think you said something about we not using our, not our emotions now, but something. Yeah, if you could go back to the slide, it would have helped me, but don't worry, maybe. Let's see if you could just go out and see where you had that love heart picture. You were trying to pass on empathy, yeah. Okay, that if we become too compassionate, I think that was the word. If we have too much compassion, when dealing with others, yeah, So empathy, okay, right, that's the word. So if we have, it says empathy is important, but can sometimes cloud judgment or lead to emotional burnout, and that's very important because sometimes, when we become too empathetic, when we become too much involved to the extent that we bring in all sorts of emotions rather than looking at the case by case scenario in terms of how things have played out. That can be cloud our judgment, just like it's the writer rightly positioned this is or posited basically. So very important for us to know that when we as leaders, when we make decisions, let those decisions, just like Bosby said, listen without being judgmental, listen without being biased in terms of your opinion about that person or whatever, and listen also without showing too much of empathy. If you, as a leader, if um, you find yourself in a situation where you think you might be compromising, where you cannot handle that situation without being too emotional about the situation, then you have to take yourself out of it and let somebody else handle it, because that's what helps you to have a well made decision, or a good decision made for each scenario, for each outcome that you want to get. So it's very important that you don't allow. That's why they would say, oh, for instance, doctors or lawyers or whatever, you don't handle the case for your family. You don't do it because they know that it can be beclouded with empathy. You can make decisions that would not be of the best interest of that person. So as leaders, let's learn to know when to be involved. It's not every single case that you handle yourself. It's not every single thing that comes up that you would just grab and handle. Let's draw the line between, your emotions, between that empathy that you're having for that situation and the decision you're making. And that the only way you can do that is sometimes you have to remove yourself from making that decision. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Oluwatoyin. And I love the way you have given uh, that feedback. I was struggling to say the words, but I think you were very right. And this is one of the beauty of the boardroom. We're opening the boardroom live so that people can see, how we do things here, how we are able to share feedback, that would lead to growth. And I think many of us in this room, if not all, practice this. We've been practicing this MSc leadership even before, embarking on this particular journey. Um, very well said. And I'm sure in the next presentation, this will be improved. Um, do we still have Mariah, Dr. Mariah, Lady Evosa? Lady Evosa, you wanted something particularly. I see in the chat room, you were looking at the last slide. Can I have the third best practice? Okay, best practice, yes. So reflect on how your emotions affect others. Lady Evosa, you said you were not going to be able to speak. There's disruption. But that's the slide, right? Perfect. And I love how you put the best practice. So everybody has their nuances, the call to action, I don't know, somebody used something the other day, reflections, key takeaway. Now I see the best practice with quality potential. Yeah, that's a new one in the boardroom. And like I said, the slides were very beautiful. I'm taking over the slides, Bosby. We have to adapt it for
Thank you.
something else. And I think Oluwatoyin mentioned something that you do brilliantly. Having your notes, not many of us can, adapt to that style. And making sure that your slides are very thinned out. is beautiful. And then you have a note as a backup to follow through with your slide. That is something you do. You are very detailed when it comes to your slides, because I don't understand how you managed to keep this to 7 slides. I'm sure you must have struggled a lot to make sure that you contain your slides, but you're very detailed when it comes to your slides. And yeah, David, somebody is following you back to back now. All the graphic artists, you can see wonderful slides are coming up in the boardroom. Over to you, David. David, your comment. You're still muted.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'm speaking from Nigeria. I'm not from Canada. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, just want to confirm that audible. So, I mean, a good word, job done by Bosoye. I really love representation so far. And yeah, the slides are also looking appealing, right? And I think I also should be that kind of person too, that I want to see more in the boardroom, that I can hear from her. And yeah, and some of the things that I also took note of, I think the only thing that, that is like a keyword that's been ringing like a bell to me so far is that as a leader, leaders need to understand their emotions. And I think it's one priority trait that everybody, even though you're not a leader, even though you're not in a position of leadership, you need to know how to manage your emotions. And so, because in my workplace, we have different type of people. When you are being asked a question, sometimes when they're supposed to respond, they are responding from a part of emotion, right? You need to know how to balance it. And again, sometimes, and she talked about the part of being empathetic too with your emotions. If you do it too much, right, it would we're trying to see the word, says too much empathy can lead to emotional burnout. Yes, I know that down. It can lead to emotional burnout. Just, I mean, there are sometimes, yes, you don't want to be harsh, you want to balance things well, right? But sometimes it weighs you down. So there's a way that, I don't know, maybe if we have a therapist in the building, right? So, I mean, they will be able to share more light on how to balance when to be able to be harsh and when to, be, I mean, a calm, like someone that is inside AC. Right. So those are the things that, I think is very, very important. And your key takeaways, right? We are just also right on point in the whole summary of the book, right? I really, really, I think, I mean, you also meet up with the timing as well, as Princess has also said. I think me to also try and ensure that all my slides are done in a more appropriate way and able to keep up with time as well. Thank you very much. That's all for me.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, David. I don't think we can take a comment from Mariam or Lady Evosa or Dr. Morayo. Most likely Dr.
Sorry, Lady
Morayo.
Ovosa has
Okay.
some things on the chat. Can we take those things?
She wanted to reflect on how your emotions affect others. Okay. How your emotion affects others. I think we took a very big topic last year on emotional intelligence. I don't know how many of you remember. I was in the UK, was out of the UK. I did that presentation for emotional intelligence, and we have the 5 pillars of emotional intelligence. I think it's important to unpack, and we are unpacking them on this book because we've talked a lot about self-awareness. And for leaders to master their emotion, really have to master yourself first and be aware of your own emotions, which is very key. Maybe we should, Oluwatorí, maybe we should go back again to emotional intelligence because and reflect on, on this key topics because that would really help. and look at the emotional psychology and all of that, because it's quite a very broad subject. What do you think?
Oh yeah, I agree with that. It cannot be. It's something we cannot have too much of. It can't be too
I
much.
agree.
In terms of learning, from a learning perspective, basically, we can't have too much of it. Yeah. Every day, I think most of the decisions we make as humans stem from our basically from our emotions, and how emotionally intelligent we are would determine whether we are making the right decisions or not. So yes, I totally agree.
Okay, so David, if you can schedule
Bosby said something that was important. He said, for instance, someone comes to you with cryptocurrency advert, or maybe they're trying to pitch to you, and then you just totally push them away. You don't even want to listen because you've heard it a couple of times already, and you understand that, okay, yeah, I don't, you don't even know if there's a tweak in what this person is saying, or so that way we lose out on opportunities, we lose out on getting more information. So yes, and that's all down to emotional intelligence as well. If you you just get irritated by everything that comes your way, easily irritated, and you're not being emotionally intelligent in that instant. So yeah, I'm not saying that you must listen to, even if you wanted to say no, for genuine reasons. Also the way you leave that other person, because your emotional intelligence boils down to how you treat others, right? So if somebody has come to pitch to you, you don't want to listen. How do you deflect that? How do you present your message in terms of trying to deflect that you don't really need this at this time? Do you just charge back at them and say, get out of here, you armed robbers, you are the ones that stole my last so it's really important, because that day you'll have either made someone's day, either made them feel better or made them feel worse. It's not even about just the messaging in terms of what you were trying to get out of it, because life must always be about us. It's about the way we treat others. Yeah, so thank you.
Okay,
Thank
let
you very
me
much.
just add a little on this. You said, how does it affect others? For example, maybe if maybe your driver comes to meet you, oh, there's a small accident. If you flare up, there can be argument. It may not necessarily driver, but if you driver, it can be calm, but at the same time, it may not say what he wants to say anymore. But when you are calm and you listen to, okay, what happened? Okay, this could have been done this, and then you can advise for next time. You see that everything, your own body is relaxed. Then the other person too is able to, open up more. This is what really happened. But when you, before you even say anything, of course, there's already chaos around which will affect. Even the same, even at home, as a mom, they say the mother is the pillar of the house. If the mom is sad, it affects everybody in the house. Do you understand? So that it can affect in every. So that's it. That's my only two.
It does have impact on our environment overall. And I think that's why emotional intelligence for leaders is very important. So we already have a presentation on emotional intelligence. We're going to go through all the 5 pillars. Motivation is one of them, self-awareness. We talked about social skills. We talked about empathy, understanding your environment. So I think we can focus on those key points. Miriam, you do have something to say? Yes, I saw your hand up. Can you speak now?
Yes, good evening, everyone. My background is noisy. Ignore the noise. The slides were fantastic, Bosby. I love
Thank
them.
you.
You did so well. And then you were so quick. You kept the time like, wow, okay. This was good.
Thank you.
now listening for me, what stood out was I wrote it down 1 minute. I wrote it down. Mm. So it was the key concepts, the unconscious bias, beginner's mind, and emotional awareness. So for the unconscious bias, like it's until mentioned, you won't think there's anything like that, or you won't think you are one who would like practice it, or you don't know that you're doing it unintentionally, right? So I'm realizing I need to pay attention. You know how you just pass someone and like, this
Maybe as
person is doing this or this person just did that. Why would they even do that? Not knowing they didn't even notice you. And also, to being over empathic, it could happen. So a girl, my neighbor's maid, ran away with their money and all because I feel she was too empathic with the girl. The girl makes so much excuses how this father died, that auntie died. She's carrying everybody's um responsibility and all of that. So they let her take too many offs. They let her get away with a lot of things because I just felt the woman was over empathic. You know, it shouldn't affect the work principles, like how we do stuff. So yes, and I feel like I'm guilty too of being over empathic sometimes. So I'll take note of that. But in general, you did awesomely well. You kept to time, and yes, I think that's it for me. And then I have someone who's going to join us soon. One of my bosses, he was listening to us the whole time. So he'll be on board maybe by next week.
Thank you very much, Miriam. And thank you that you're still working and you're able to, join in. I know for all of us it's always the case, but I don't see you beating Mariah anytime soon. You know, our icon award, Vision Icon Award of the Year. I don't see you beating that. Um, she is just excellent in her behavior as a leader, being in the clinic, handling an entire department in the National Hospital, and still able to join in to read. Wow. Thank you so very much for modeling leadership and personal development. Thank you very much to all of you. Your last word was B. I wanted to say Dr. Bosoye. Uh-uh. I've
no, we are
I've just
getting
given
there.
all
We
of
are
you
getting
titles,
be our
Basco,
PhD.
left, right. Wow. Okay.
Okay. So I would say understanding people requires emotional intelligence, just as we mentioned here, self-awareness, and the willingness to challenge one's biases. So at its core, leadership is not about control, it's about connection. Let's connect with our people. Let's listen deeply to them, be present, and also manage our emotions. That's it.
Thank you so very much. We
Thank
already
you.
established that all of these leadership skills are skills that can be learned. They should be practiced. And I think it was emphasized in this chapter. Is nothing to just know the theory, nothing to know that MSc leadership exists. Without the practice, and it should be continuous. We have to evolve and don't beat yourself too much. I think we talked about compassion for self. Give yourself compassion even when you fail, and keep practicing your skills. Too much of emotion today we've had, empathy we've had is could lead to burnout. So we have to be very mindful. And I think for me, one of the biggest takeaway, which is what was echoed by Miriam, is to always reflect on this unconscious bias. We always want to say the other person, you know, is behaving in a certain way without really looking inward to see how we are, or perhaps I should say, looking at the mirror to also see that we also have this unconscious bias and we emit it. Understand yourself to understand your people. On that note, I'd like to bring the meeting to a close and thank you all for joining. For those joining us for the very first time, we hope that you enjoyed the section. Please go through our website. It's being shared. David, I think our www.businessreadersglobal.com and also our YouTube. We're on YouTube and you can watch all the replay. Thank you very much for joining. And for those of us in Dubai, good night, except for Miriam, who is still out and about. But for me and Bosby, we're going to bed right away. For those of you in Canada, good afternoon. And for those in
Good afternoon.
Kigali is still evening, right? You're just 1 hour?
Yeah.
Yes, perfect. Kigali and Nigeria, good evening. Enjoy your evening. Lady Vosa, thank you for joining. And good night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Yeah, we can see your face.
Oh, yeah.